Good morning and welcome once again to our business community support discussion that we're doing each and every week right here on the Main Street Fort Dodge Facebook page. It can also be found on the Alpha Media YouTube channel. And this is just an opportunity to share information about what's going on in our community and hopefully help some business owners and just individuals across our community deal with not just COVID, but general business questions that might be coming up and certainly exacerbated by the COVID times. It is a live show, as you can see. So if you have any questions or comments that you want to throw in, please do so on Facebook and we'll add those and you can become part of the show. If you have those questions, we'll certainly try to answer them as we go along, especially if it's one for our guests. So we certainly enjoy that. Well, let's bring on our regular contributors. Of course, we have Cheryl O'Hearn with Spin Market Plus Digital. Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome, everyone.
We have Darcy Swan filling in for Kimberly at the SBDC. It's always good to see you, Darcy.
It's always good to be here. Thanks for having me.
And of course, Chris Patrick with Main Street Fort Dodge.
Good morning, everyone.
So I'm really excited about today's show. We've got some really great guests that are coming up today. So we have Joey Beech, Executive Director of the Ankeny Economic Development Corporation, but also author and speaker. And she's going to be talking to us today about finance for women. And I think what a great topic, especially when finance has just become a really important topic as we, are dealing with pandemic and business shutdowns and all sorts of things like that. So I'm excited to get into that. We have Carrie Kuiper, the Executive Director of the Fort Dodge Convention and Visitors Bureau, and we'll also be talking with Bev with the Orchard as well. So we have a huge show for today, and I'm excited about it. Did I miss anything on our lineup, guys?
I don't think so. I think you covered it really well. And you're right. We do have a full show, partly because everything we've got on is timely and we're coming to the year. So we've got 2 weeks that we won't be on. So we've got to pile everybody in the next 2 weeks.
That's right. Well, let's get right to it. And let's bring on and welcome Joey Beech. Joey, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Well, we're excited about the opportunity to have you on and kind of share some of your insight and expertise about all the things that are going on. But for people who don't know you, maybe even haven't read your book, can you give us a little bit of background about, who you are and why you're so passionate about finance for women?
Absolutely. So I'm Joey, like you said, Joey Beech. I have a day job, which is the Executive Director of Ankeny Economic Development Corp. But prior to that, I spent about 20 years in the major financials. Iowa is a hub for insurance and financial institutions. That worked out really well for me. I actually started my career in, I did a little stint at NIAC up in Mason City. And then for pharmacists, I got my entry into insurance through Pharmacist Mutual up in Algona. When we moved to Des Moines, I got in with one of the major financials and spent 20 years there. And what was great about it is that not only did they want us to know everything about the products that we worked with and that I got to help develop and do, but also a big part of our program was to make sure that we understood and that our customers understood where our products fit in a full financial plan. So that was great because I literally got paid to learn about personal finance. So I did my best to apply it to my own life. And then, after about 20 years, life changes came along and I made the shift to Ankeny Economic Development Corp. And a couple years after that, my daughter was over at the University of Iowa and we were tailgating and talking with a bunch of her friends and they were about to graduate and they bright young women with this great future in front of them. But as I talked with them, it was really clear that a number of them really didn't have a good understanding of some key finance things. And on the way home, I heard this ad from this salesperson who often can be misleading. And my fear was these young women were going to go out into the world, be making money, doing great things, but all their hard energy and work, a lot of that money could end up in the hands of somebody else, because they just didn't have the knowledge or understanding of how to evaluate some of those purchases and how to deal with or negotiate or just understand the basics of when you take out those loans, what's going to happen years from now. So I mentioned to my husband that somebody should write a book, and he said, yes, you should. And that was a challenge. Then I thought, surely there's something out there already. And I went to the bookstores and looked around, and they have a ton of books for people who have already a good wealth established, how to invest your money. And then there's a bunch of books for how to get out of trouble you got in, how to handle, get out of debt, how to handle student loans, how to sell a house short, how to file bankruptcy, all of those. And what we didn't have was a really simple book to say how to avoid these problems so that you can get to where you have wealth and need to invest. So that became kind of my passion. And then when I started to sit down and go, okay, finance is a topic. It's like diet and exercise. It's been covered a lot. What would make mine different? And when I started to think about what made finance interesting to me was my mother. My mother found herself raising me and my two siblings in the 70s by herself with no other financial support. And it was a struggle. And I watched her and learned from her. And for us, it was money was a very real topic. And so I learned from that. And that's how I became interested in it. And so I really, when I was writing it, wove those personal stories in there. And that's honestly why I focused on women, because obviously that was kind of what started the idea. But in order to make it interesting, especially something my daughter would have read, I had to make it personal, and I had to be able to be specific with things so that it'd be something she'd actually read. Because, let's face it, budgeting is not attractive or sexy. Saving money doesn't sound great. Learning how much interest you're going to pay, not great, party topics. So that was really kind of where I got started. And then I've had the benefit of talking with a lot of people and gotten to learn even more and understand a lot of the challenges that especially young people are facing, and the information they need, because it's clear they're not getting it through school or other places in a lot of cases. So that was a long-winded introduction, but that's kind of how it all started and where I've focused.
No, it makes complete sense. I think that, there's so many people out there who can benefit from this information. So yeah, I'm glad you're out there providing it. Having two daughters myself, I sometimes wonder, are they ready, even as teenagers, are they ready to go out there and face the world? Do they have the skills necessary? And so it's great that you're out there providing it. Let's talk about some of the slides that you brought with you today. And this one, it kind of just talks about, why do you care about managing your money?
Exactly. What I have found is, again, we all know we should save more, spend less, basics, but we really don't do that until we have a clear why. And so I came up with this, and I've used it in a number of places, and I love the answers that I hear, but it's basically everybody to just take a minute and fill in the blank. I will manage my money today so I can, and whatever that is. So for me, my focus right now is I manage my money today so that later I don't have to work. I want to retire. And so I look at, I live in Ankeny. We are a thriving, affluent suburb. There are so many gorgeous houses and people around me, and it gets really tempting to go, oh, I want to, move into all those new, beautiful houses. And then I go, oh, you know what? No, because that would delay my retirement. So because I'm clear on my why, it's very easy, and I don't even get tempted. Well, I get tempted, but it's pretty easy for me to go, yeah, no, I'm not willing to work the extra couple years it would cost to do that. When I've used it with young people, I used it at a Farm Her event a while back, and I had 300 young women in there, and they happened to be focused on ag, but it was everything from pay off my college debt to go to vet school, to buy the family farm, to set up my own veterinary clinic, and all these great things. And so now as they go through life, and of course there's a million things tempting them and telling them what they should spend their money on, but they'll be clear, nope, I'm going to buy the family farm, or I'm going to open that vet clinic. And to do that, I need to manage my money today. So it's all about that. And it's one of those mental tricks that we have to use to keep our focus on why we would even, open up our monthly statements, and why do we need to pay attention to that? So that's the focus of that. It's been interesting because as I've talked to a lot of college students, one of the things I hear the most is, how do you fight FOMO? they're the generation where they've got even better acronyms for everything, but the fear of missing out. And for them, they were looking for kind of a strategy or a tool so that every time they see a social media post about the greatest next thing, they don't get tempted to follow that. So I recommend everybody just take a couple minutes and answer the question. I will manage my money, or fill in the blank. I will manage my money today so I can. And whatever that is that they want to do.
Do you find that this is effective? And the reason I ask that is because, when I speak to young people today, whether it be young men or young women, so often they have an expectation that, they want the nice house that their parents have. They want the nice car that their parents have. So, are they able to do that when they walk through some of these exercises?
It's definitely a mix. A number of them that I've been talking to, now maybe the ones that show up at these, or that they end up talking to me afterwards, or raise their hand and ask the question, I think a lot of them are. Part of it is they're starting to look at, that paycheck's not going to be as big as I thought it was. And, that, my salary might not be able to buy that big house that I want, the dream house I want today. I might have to wait a little while and save up a bigger down payment or do other things. I know that it is more likely that they will be able to do that if they've taken the time to actually look at that and what that goal is. And then research shows if you write it down, you are more likely to achieve it and focus on it.
Okay, so it really is in some ways about the goal setting, so that they
Absolutely.
can get what they want.
Right. And because it's easy to say, yes, we all want a bigger house, a nicer car, all those great things. But until you have that kind of reason to say, well, and with young people, I call it the would you rather game. For me, it's, would I rather have a bigger, beautiful house, or would I rather retire early? I'm going for retire early. Now, somebody else, they might want the bigger house. That doesn't and they love their job, so they don't want to work as much. That's perfectly fine too. But I think the key is it's a trade-off. And that's what they have to see is, great if you want that house, if that's the goal, perfect. But it's the trade-off that you always have to be thinking about.
So be intentional.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Sure. That makes sense.
I see you brought up my other slide, which a lot of people would wonder why I have this, very tranquil, calm person sleeping. And that's because I firmly believe that the best sleep aid you can get is money in the bank. Just think about it. We all talk about having an emergency fund and making sure we have our finances in order. But especially, I hate that it's a great lesson, but the pandemic has really taught us, that emergency fund really does matter. And if you look at all the ads that are out there to help us sleep better, I think money in the bank is one of them. And we make better decisions that way. We don't have to make as impulsive decisions or decisions out of desperation. If we can, I would say one of the lessons my mother taught me was she always wanted to have a go to hell fund. And that was because sometimes she would be put in a position, especially as a woman in the 70s, who didn't have much money, be put in a position where she wasn't treated well. And that drove a lot of her decisions. And she always wished she'd have enough money in the bank to where she would be able to say, you know what, when she wasn't being treated well, she could walk away and she could actually give him a piece of her mind. And that's part of, for me, another part of my why is because having some money in the bank, and even not as much having the money, but knowing where everything is, understanding it so that if I come to a decision point, I can pivot and go, well, here are my options. Where somebody who doesn't have that cushion, they have, unfortunately, fewer options.
We've talked a lot about folks, especially just starting out, young kids, college kids, but I get the feeling that this isn't just for college kids, and you're talking with folks in their 40s and 50s and 60s who are all still, trying to figure out that personal finance situation.
I think we all are, and the statistics show that. And I think it's something I equate it to exercise and diet. we are really at that point where we all know some things we should do, but it's things also, I don't exercise as much as I should, and I don't eat as well as I should. It's a lifelong component of wellness. Being, your personal wellness has a tie to your financial wellness. It's just, a lot of us were raised not to talk about money. And I would say that's something a habit we need to change. Kids learn the most about the money from their parents, like I did with my mom. My kids, I've instilled a lot of good lessons, but there's a few that I'm still trying to instill, even though they're grown adults now. And I think that's just a big part of wellness, and it applies to everybody. And family, that's one of the other big questions I get. Actually, one of my last slides is about that. We don't talk about it enough, and I often get raise the gamut. How do I talk to my kids about money? How do I talk to my parents about money? Because that's tough. Especially in the Midwest, we don't like to have that conversation.
Sure. So there is a difference, it sounds like, between men and women when it comes to how we deal with money. So talk to us about that. What are some of those differences?
Well, it's interesting because one of the questions I often get is, why would you, why do you focus just on women? And part of it is because I want to make it as interesting and compelling as I can. But the great thing is money is gender neutral. And maybe that's the reason it's the color green, but we look at it differently. So women, we know historically we make less, but we live longer. So it's even more important for us to have our financial house in order and to understand it so that we can manage it. But we also, part of the reason why there's a wealth gap in there is because we don't take as many risks. Fidelity has done a great study, and they have found that women's confidence is irrationally low when it comes to investing. There's no reason for that lack of confidence, but it just is. So for whatever reason, we aren't confident when it comes to investing. Now, part of that is if you look at Wall Street, especially years ago, it was solid male. And so I don't think we see ourselves in investing in banking and other high ends of the financial industry. But interestingly, men are overconfident. So they tend to take bigger risks, whether or not they are actually skilled in that area. So I think that's why some marriages can really work, is that if we can have that balance, you could be better positioned in that. And part of what I was going to, just because I think it's somewhat timely for what's going on with in our nation and our world right now, I was going to talk a little bit about the market and investing, partly because budgeting is not sexy and it's covered in the book, but because I think it's relevant to people of almost any age. So like having a good goal, like being able to talk about it, and being able to understand the trade-offs of it, fear is one of the biggest emotions that drives our decisions. Sadly, as we saw right before the election, negative ads work, and a huge majority of them focus on driving at one of our fears. Whatever that fear is, they go after it. Well, a lot of our advertising does that. Sadly, it's because it's effective. Fear drives a lot of what we deal with, particularly when it comes to money. So what Fidelity did some great research. Years ago, they had the Rockstar Mutual Fund. It was called the Magellan Fund, and it returned year over year 29% return for many years. And so the assumption would be everybody who invested in that would be happy as larks and have this nice, nest egg. But they dug into it, and what they found is the average investor in that fund actually lost money. And I paused there because you have to scratch your head. How is it that they've invested in this fund that's had rock star returns for multiple years, yet the average investor who put money in there actually lost money? And it was the fear factor. What would happen is people would not get comfortable to invest in the market until they saw it was going really well. And so then they'd invest in it. And then, a month or a year or a couple years later, of course, the market does what it does and it goes down. And they hold on a little bit, but then it goes down even further. And most of the people on this, they felt that gut level in 2008 and then in early 2020, where you feel like the entire bottom is falling out. And the fear gets them, and then they actually sell because they don't want it to go to zero. And then it bounces back. Well, what they just did was the opposite of what everyone knows you should do. You should buy low, sell high. But our emotions drive us, and instead, the average investor was buying high and selling low. And that's hard to recover from. It's also hard to do. I remember sitting in, a large office building downtown in 2008, and especially as a financial institution that had a lot of ties to the market, and thinking, oh my, I literally wanted to pull my garbage can out and puke in it because the market was taking such a dive, and I was tempted to go in and change my allocation and move money in my 401k. And then I literally had to, and fortunately there was, the computers weren't as fast, so it gave me a minute to think about it. And then I had to remind myself of all the things I knew. And then I did some basic, reminding and go, okay, it's still fine. I still have more in there than what I had actually put in. It's just some of my gains has went down. And I was able to talk myself out of it. Thank goodness. Because it's done nothing, it goes up and down on a regular basis, but it's still far above what I ever put in it. And it's not because I'm a rock star. It's not because I know better than anybody else. It's just because I was able to control my emotions at the time. The other part is taking the long look. Thank you. So one of the things that we all often forget is there's this great term called dollar cost averaging. And all it means is that you put in a little bit at a time over a long period of time. So then that's why 401ks and automatic savings and deposits are just one of the greatest things, because it sets aside and puts a little money in out of every paycheck. And that way, a little money goes in. So if it was this year, a little money went in kind of on the high side early in January and February. And then a little money went in March as it was going down. And then as it was going down, money's still going in with those paychecks, so that you're taking advantage. Not only are you putting some in when it's higher, but you're also taking advantage when it's lower. And you really don't even have to think about it. It just automatically happens. And it gives you an advantage that you don't get where if it's just, okay, one bonus check and putting it all in on one day. Well, if that one day happens to be where at the valley in March when it was really low, great. But if that one day was at the high end, that could not work out very well. So putting in a little bit over time and keeping the long-term view is also critical. And that's why I show the S&P 500 over the long term, because Warren Buffett and a lot of the true financial experts who always get interviewed on the financial shows will tell you, and they usually do it in their book, they won't do it in the show when they're being interviewed by these folks, is you shouldn't listen to those shows. Those shows are designed to get you to do things. Those shows are for entertainment purposes. They are selling advertisement. They function more by getting people to trade and buy and sell and do other things, because that's where a lot of the money is made. To just put your money in there and let it gain year over year, that's not sexy, and that doesn't sell as much, but it's often the best strategy.
Yeah, I mean, we've always said that fear of loss is a much stronger motivator than hope of gain. And so it makes sense to hear what you're talking about, that we simply see these things. So I'm curious, it seems like, the internet's a great thing, and we all now have dashboards that we can go on and we can see how our 401k or any of our financial vehicles are performing basically any minute of any day. Is it a bad idea to be checking that every day?
Actually, yes. And most, again, I use Warren Buffett just because obviously he's really good at this. And yeah, and back to '08, when at the time, my job required me to be online a lot. And we had a ticker and I knew where the market was. And every time I looked at my screen, I saw it. That probably was part of what was driving my fear, because every couple hours, especially at the peak, you're going, oh my. And of course, I worked for a financial institution, so the stress was thick. And but if you aren't looking at it every day, you don't have to ride that roller coaster of the stress that goes with it. Yes, it's a given. If you invest in the market at all, it's going to go up and it's going to go down. If you don't understand that going in, you probably shouldn't be investing in it. So it's all about controlling your emotions and not looking at it every day. That said, the average person spends more time planning their vacation than managing and planning their finances. And I would say that it's, I love a good vacation, but we should spend equal amount of time on managing our finances. I recommend the monthly, actually looking at it monthly. Here's my statement. This month it was down, this month it was up. Here's what happened in between. Monthly statements are a great way to go. The other thing, whether you do that online or otherwise, but the other thing about monthly statements is not only look at your accounts where you have savings or retirement, but also look at your spending, because that's another key component. For me, I put a lot of money in my credit card. I pay it off at the end of every month. But what I also do is I look through that. Where have I been spending my money? I was amazed. I've taught a couple classes, and one of the things we encourage you to do is actually pull out your last couple months of statements and then look at where your money is going. And this isn't a political endorsement or anything, but Joe Biden has a great quote about saying, don't tell me what your priorities are, show me your budget, and that will tell me where your priorities are. And when I ask them to look at that, they'll often come back and go, wow, I had no idea I was spending this much money on gas, on a truck, on whatever it is. And that's another key thing, is just, we need to look at it, but once a week, once a month should do it. Every day, not going to help you. It'll just drive stress.
Sure. Well, let's talk about some of the things that are going to be important about, what we do with our time and how we move forward. So you've got some ideas for folks.
I do. So one, I think we, especially in the Midwest, have to be better at talking to each other about money. And this comes in every form, whether it's parents with their children, adult children with their parents, I know a lot of people who have older parents and going, I think I'm going to have to take care of them, but they won't talk to me about money. How can I help? How can I do these things? So it's across the gamut. It also comes into play when we're out with our friends and shopping. Back to my why and the priority is, often, especially women, we'll be out shopping and you try something on and your friend said, oh, that looks great on you. You're totally worth it. You should get that. And then, and for me, it's home decor. I'm not good at that, but I think about it and go, oh, yeah, that might be nice. But honestly, it's not a priority. Right now, my biggest priority is helping my kids, or investing in something else, or saving for a big purchase down the road. And so when we talk about money, it's good to be able to talk about priorities. Not can I afford it necessarily, but is that a priority for me now? And if we switch it from price to priority, it makes the conversation more easy. It allows us to judge less and care more. When it comes to, anybody in the family, and, as we have Thanksgiving and talking in the holidays, people will talk about that, how that is. Listen more for emotions. Sadly, money and finances is a huge shame trigger. It's up for women, it's up there with body image. Of course, for men, they have a huge amount of pressure to be the provider and other things. So there's a lot of emotion, shame triggers, and other things that come with it. So we have to know if we're going to have a conversation about money to tread lightly and listen more, understand basically what their priorities are, what their fears are, what their strategy is. What we often, some people will go, oh, well, they have a nice farm or a good job or whatever. That doesn't mean that they're flush with money. That just means you guys know business owners. You own a business. That must mean you automatically are rich. Well, no. That means you have bigger bills and that you need to generate more income to cover those. So it's really being able to talk about all sides of the equation and just being open to the conversation.
That's great. I think that shame trigger that you talk about is something that, most people can probably relate with. Anytime you start having a conversation with somebody about their personal finances or even business finances, a lot of times it starts with, well, I'm not where I should be, or I've got a lot of work to do. I made a mistake, and those sorts of things. And, as long as it's a safe atmosphere, talking about those things are probably helpful.
Yeah. Well, and I think it can start with some of those things. Oh, well, I'm not where I should be. Well, most of us aren't. I don't weigh what I want to weigh. But okay, let's start having a conversation. What could help me get closer to where I should be? How could we do that? And maybe it's even, instead of just having a buddy to go to the gym with, maybe it's having a buddy to have conversations around money. I have the benefit of having a personal friend who, she and I always kind of felt we were a little off for a while because we were willing to have conversations about money. We never talk about how much she makes or how much I make, but we do talk about money. We talk about our priorities. We talk about what we want to instill in our children. And you can talk about it without talking about how much somebody makes or other things. The other is, a lot of people say they don't talk about it, but what they'll do instead is do code. Oh, well, what do you do? Who do you work for? And they try to get at some of those things, or, oh, you're driving that big car, or, we get at some of that finance, but we do it in code when it's not really talking about money. So I say, let's talk more about the priorities and other things that go into it, and less about what car you're driving and what house you're in or business you own.
Sure. Well, I see your book back there on the shelf. It's placed perfectly.
Well, I got it. Cheryl has taught me that I need to do a better job at marketing, and that's why I work with her. And she is trying to get me to better position things.
You've both done a great job with it. So tell us, if somebody's interested in the book, how do they find a copy?
The best is to go to my website, or and then there's a link to Amazon, to my book on Amazon. Or they can go to Amazon. Again, there's a lot of books out there with personal finance, but it's called A Girl's Guide to Personal Finance. My website is also that, A Girl's Guide to Finance, or A Girl's Guide to personalfinance.com. You can find me and my book out there, or go straight to Amazon. It's also out there.
Perfect. Such great information today. Thanks for taking some time and sharing with us about what we can all do, but especially how women can benefit from really taking a hold and fighting that fear. Any final thoughts you want to share with our viewers before you go?
Yeah, one is that it's really, I talk about money all the time, but we also have to, as a society, separate our personal worth from our net worth. And I think that also helps people better understand it, because sometimes people will say, oh, well, you're just focused on being, having money, and that's greedy or whatever. No. And we have to separate our personal worth from our net worth, because they're very different things. And that's another lesson my mom taught me, is you have great personal worth no matter how much money you have. And if we can separate those, I think it's easier to manage and reduces that shame trigger.
Awesome. Well, wonderful message, Joy. Thanks so much for taking some time and sharing with us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We're going to put you back into the background. Feel free to stay as long as you like. And, if you want, we'll bring you back in and you can end the conversation. So, thank you.
Yeah,
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Joey.
Great
Appreciate
advice.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously the book is tailored especially for women. And I just think of how many women are operating their household budgets. So many women are running their household budgets and individually as they enter, college and prepare for things like that. I just think what a great opportunity to, get in and take a hold of that. Earlier the better, right? But never too late.
Right. She's a wealth of information there, and so if somebody was also looking for a keynote, not necessarily just on finances, but as all of her background and her economic development areas, be sure to contact her or drop me a note, and I'll give
Excellent.
you her contact.
Well, let's bring Carrie Kuiper on as well as Bev, and let's talk a little bit about, the orchard is. Bev, I guess the orchard is still open right now, right? Sort of some
It is.
opportunities.
We'll be open through December 23rd, busy with gift basket season right now and shipping lots of gift boxes across the United States. So that's what we're busy doing.
So, I mean, brand new information to me. Tell us about how much shipping you do and what sort of things are available.
Well, we have several corporate accounts as well as family accounts that order pretty much every year. It's kind of become a tradition for them. We ship out, a few hundred every week during this time of the year. We also do a lot of local deliveries in town and sell a lot out of our market. We just, back in the 60s, actually started doing gift boxes and baskets. I guess I wasn't here at that point, but the people that ran it then did, and we've just continued on with that.
That's amazing. So I'd like to talk for just a moment, if you can, about what 2020 has been for the orchard, because it certainly hasn't been a normal year for most people. And can you talk to us about what sort of things happened this year and what changes you had to make to both keep your staff and customers safe?
Well, to begin with, it was a little scary planning the season, not knowing how much to buy or what to do, how much staff to have or whatever. And but it's all ended up fine. We've had a great year, actually. Of course, the cafe area is down like every restaurant around. We've heard a lot about that on the news. But it seems like with less customers in here, they're staying longer and buying more. I feel like they feel they're in a safe environment and that they're not nervous about getting out. We did have a few weekends in October when it was over the top busy, and I did feel that with some of our customers. They kind of wanted to hurry out the door quick. But really, we are up right now for our season. So things went well for us this year.
That's great. Well, there's the one thing I've learned about the orchard is there is just so many facets of some of the things that are going on out there. It's not just the restaurant. It's not just the pumpkin patch. It's not just the apples. There's really a lot going on. We've got your website pulled up here, and it sort of talks about all the things that you guys do. But if you would, walk us through some of the services that you provide and all the things that are available to the community.
Well, we decided that diversification is the key to success in our type of business. In 2012, we lost our entire crop due to a freeze that went through the Midwest part of the country. And we decided that year to build our Back 40 playground, which has drawn a lot of young families during the fall time who also then come into the market, purchase, go upstairs in the gift shop, and enjoy their lunch as well. We do a lot of private events. We do wedding receptions in the summer and outdoor weddings, Christmas parties, lots of bridal showers, baby showers, things like that in the back of our barn during our season. And then we have about 15 varieties of apples. And as you said, our pumpkin patch. We just keep expanding maybe in little different ways every year, try to bring in new products, new ideas. Just to stay on top of all of it.
Well, you guys are definitely doing a great job of that. One of the things that we want to talk about a little bit is you're doing some online marketing as well. You're giving the opportunity for customers to go online and purchase some items as well.
That's true. We do have a small online presence. I would like to add to that store at some point, add a lot more items. However, it takes more staff to do that as well, to stay on top of it all. So actually, this works pretty well, gives people a few choices. We are shipping out more and more every year from our online website.
Now, share with us, because we have a lot of viewers out there who are maybe scared to take the plunge into providing some online opportunities. And I'd love it if you could just talk a little bit about how you went about doing that. And, you know, was it really difficult? I mean, what did you have to do to make that sort of thing happen?
Well, you just hire someone to help you out to get started, I guess, and help you to decide how to do it. And you can't be good at everything when you're in business. So you have to get those outside people to come in and help you with some of those types of things.
And so once you started doing that, I mean, it sounds like you've started to see at least some, sales from that online activity.
Right. A lot of our sales are customers that have been here, grew up in our area and moved away. And so that's been a good way to start. A lot of our Christmas orders are exactly that. People that grew up in Fort Dodge and remember the orchard from their childhood. It's become a tradition for them and their family. So they're just sharing that with their relatives now.
Sure. Well, as you approach the end of the season, I mean, it's December 10th. So how much opportunity do people have to get in there and take advantage of all your offerings?
Well, we're open 7 days a week, 9 to 6, and they can order 24 hours a day online, and we'll be shipping right up until December 23rd when we close.
Great. Well, I love the orchard. I think a lot of us think of the orchard as one of the great gifts that Fort Dodge has to offer. So thanks for all that you're doing. It's always a wonderful experience when we get a chance to visit.
Well, thank you for having me today. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And I want
Thank you so much.
I want to talk a little bit, Carrie, about some of the other economic things that go on. And I know that when visitors ask what's going on and what's to do in Fort Dodge, the orchard probably always comes up.
Absolutely. So yesterday we had a travel writer, her name, and she does Travel with Sarah, an online blog. And we were out at the orchard. So there's plenty of stuff yet to get your Christmas shopping done and things. And she just loved the facility or the venue. So it's impressive. Visitors love it. And we always do promote it as much as possible.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
I think we all love the orchard and are excited when we have an opportunity to get there. So, Carrie, is there, as we head into the holiday season, obviously you deal with a lot of different people who are visiting the community. Do things really slow down for the holidays? Who should we be expecting as visitors as we approach the holiday season?
I think you're going to be seeing friends and families. There still is a lot of people safely traveling out there. I had a conversation with Travel with Sarah yesterday on that, and people still want to be out. They still want to be about, but they've got to find a way to do it in a safe manner. And I think if you do it safely, there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm excited to see how many families safely get together over the holidays, whether they're physical, in social distancing while they're together or what have you. But that typically this time of the year is our biggest market.
Sure. Well, Carrie, Bev, thanks so much for joining us today and filling us in on all the latest details with everything that's going on. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So just a couple other updates that we want to definitely give as we round out the show today. There's some things going on with the PPP, Darcy. You've got you guys did some streams that were out there, and those are available now.
Yeah. So last Thursday, if you were on the show or happened to watch the show, I indicated we had a webinar with SBA representatives to talk about the forgiveness on the PPP program for those that had applied for that. It was very well attended, but we know a lot of people were not able to hop on and watch it live. So if you go to our Facebook page, which is North Central Iowa SBDC, the replay link will be on there, or they can email me at darcys@ncisbdc.com. And I can get them the link so they can go and watch it. Even for those that were on it and maybe misplaced the link or whatever, let us know, because that information was extremely valuable. And we had a wide range of people on that. We had CPAs, we had lenders. It was really geared towards the business owner or those that had applied for it. So, but we had a wide range of folks on there. So I wanted just to remind people that happened. And if they're having questions, that would be a great webinar to watch. I also wanted just to provide a real quick update on the Shop Iowa program that we've been talking about quite a bit lately. And it's a great opportunity for businesses to dip their toes in the e-commerce market, so to speak. And we heard about the apple orchard and the success that they've been having selling online, but it can be a little intimidating. What we see is a lot of businesses want to jump in and sell everything online. And we recommend just sell a few things to kind of get familiar. But the Shop Iowa program allows retailers to do that at no cost through June right now. They can have up to 25 items. They just expanded the program to make it a little bit more attractive. It used to be that you had to have a brick and mortar building and sell products that could be shipped. And now they're allowing folks who do homemade products, so not your hobby crafters, because you have to have an EIN number, be registered to the state, or report your income on your taxes. But if you're doing those things and you don't have a brick and mortar business, now you can have a presence on Shop Iowa. You have to be the person who makes or transforms the product. You can't be a third-party seller. It's also open to alcohol vendors now, which that we didn't allow before. So, if you make wines and things like that, you can have a presence on Shop Iowa. Also, for those that are targeted small business folks, they can have certification on their page so folks can see that. They have added Shopify integration, which wasn't available before, and they're making shipping a little bit easier by allowing businesses to put a per product shipping instead of a flat rate. And as always with the Shop Iowa program, if you're interested in getting involved, but you're a little uncomfortable, you're not sure where to start, you can reach out to those folks, or you can contact our SBDC center, and we have a team that can work with you. We can even come help take photographs. We have a photo box. I think Chris had mentioned that last week. No cost. We can lend that out. So yeah, it's a great way to dip your toes in the e-commerce market. And there's still time to get online for the holiday season. So, here within the next week, if you hop out, start to have a presence. So
great opportunity for businesses to see what that's all about and maybe sell a few products online that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to do. So
absolutely.
Great opportunity.
Yep.
Well, Chris, it sounds like vendors downtown have some things going on as we approach the holiday as well.
We do. Actually, there's a couple things I want to talk about. The first one is the Mom's Morning Out, which is coming up this Saturday. And it was a collaboration with Real Deals and Shiny Top, and also River Hops Brewing, plus Bloomers. We have a new owner there. So if you go shopping down with Morgan at Real Deals, for every purchase, you're going to get a drink ticket, and that drink ticket is going to take you to River Hops, where you can also get a pastry that Rebecca has made, and she does hand homemade baked items every single day. So if you have not been in there, I suggest you go and get great sandwiches or other things from her. Also, we have Amanda Pert with Personal Expressions, which is on the corner of 12th and Central. It's backed by that beautiful pine tree we lit this year. And they are doing vendor fairs every weekend. So contact Amanda. She's got a great little Facebook page. So make sure that you reach out to her on Facebook, and you can find out if there's still space for you to be a vendor, or if you can go and shop. all of our retailers are running really super specials this weekend. So please come downtown and shop local. Even if you're not downtown, please be shopping local and supporting our independent businesses. The other thing I wanted to talk about this morning real quickly was Iowa Workforce Development came out with some new numbers yesterday. And first off, for the week ending December 5th, nearly 59% of the claimants indicated that their claims were not COVID related. That was up 53% from the last week. And that really is telling us that there are less job losses due to COVID at this point in time, which is good news. However, we did jump about 5,900 people filing claims last week. Part of those were due to construction and manufacturing loss during that Thanksgiving week, and that happens pretty much all the time. The other thing that is more important is that right now those personal in-person services with Iowa Workforce Development are at a cease due to the governor's proclamation. So the way to get a hold of them is through their website or through the phone. So if you're needing information from them, please reach out to them online. That is what I have today, guys. Thank you so much for producing this and joining us every week. Main Street's really excited to post this on our Facebook page. Thank you.
That's great. I think of shopping local with a lot of affinity, and I always say that you should shop local so that you can shop local. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is if we don't shop local, one day we may not be able to. And so I don't mean to be like, wild about it, but that's what I always say is shop local so that you can shop local. There's nothing better than getting the product and being able to touch it, feel it, and have it the same day. And that's the great thing that I love about our local shopping opportunities. And we have some great stores downtown and all over Fort Dodge. So great opportunities as we approach the holidays.
Really great to get those unique items. You don't see the same things in all those stores. And if you go into the mall, you're going to see the same types of products everywhere. But coming downtown, we've got some amazing items in all of our stores. And candy, don't forget candy. 700 pounds of candy arrived at Candy the More last week. So we got to eat that up so Terry can get some more.
Well, if I have to.
Okay.
Lots of exciting things going on downtown and very, again, the online, and just like Darcy said and Bev alluded to, I remember in 2014 when I suggested to Bev that she go online, she went online kicking and screaming, basically. It was scary, and we walked her through it and helped her, and as you can see, now she's sending out hundreds of items per week across the United States. And, that's the exciting part, is to be able to say, hey, look this is somebody that was just as nervous as you were about getting online. And does it happen overnight? No. And that's probably the one little tip I'm going to throw out there. Digital does not happen overnight. It takes time, it takes planning, it takes organization. And yes, it doesn't always work really well. I had a client out in New York email me last night and they go, Cheryl, they can't get on. Well, it's because they were clicking where it said click here instead of the link.
Mm-hmm.
It's something as simple as that.
One of the things that I love about digital is it does give us feedback. It gives us feedback very quickly about a user experience and how well things are working. And we can certainly make those changes. And that's something that you help with as well. It's you can make those changes and tweak as you go to make things work even better.
Yep. Don't fret. Just because it didn't work the first time doesn't mean it's not going to work. And there's always variables. It could be the internet was really busy at that moment, so when you click send, it just didn't send quite as fast. Don't panic. It'll happen. It is the world we're in, and we've demonstrated that over and over again with the things that Small Business Development's doing and the state of Iowa's doing, and our businesses like Bev are showing out there.
Well, we'll do another show coming up next week. We have a guest, Holly Van Heel, Human Sciences Specialist, Nutrition and Wellness with the Iowa Extension and Outreach, and we'll get kind of an update there on some of the ag things that are going on, I would be guessing as well.
Yep. She's going to also talk about nutrition areas, some things that maybe, since people are cooking at home more, holiday season, that type of thing, some different things that might be beneficial for her there or for families there. And some of the things that are coming up with people putting on the COVID-15, maybe.
Don't know what you're talking about.
I know.
Excuse me, these things.
I wasn't insinuating anything.
Well, thanks so much, everybody, for joining us, and to our guests who were just so fantastic today. We learned so much, and of course, this will be archived on the Main Street Fort Dodge Facebook page. Please share it with your friends and family and anybody that you think might benefit from some of the discussions today. And you can also comment on there, and of course, those will be seen and shared as well. So thanks so much, everybody, for your time today. And let's run through the roles if we can. We've got Darcy Swan filling in for Kimberly with the America's SBDC here in Iowa. We also have Chris Patrick with Main Street Fort Dodge, and Cheryl Ahern with Spin Market Plus Digital. And of course, I'm Jed Burns, Market Manager here at Alpha Media. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.